Alright, so you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Rebekah Gray. I'm helping out this Beautiful Bodies
Yay!
of Birmingham project. I think it's a great project and everything.
Okay, so go ahead and tell us when the first time you noticed your body image was.
Well, I've always been a pretty confident person. Everyone always thinks I'm a very confident person, and I've never been very skinny, and I've always eaten whatever I've wanted, and it never seemed like a big deal until probably when I was about 11, when I got to middle school, and I noticed all of my friends were smaller body types, and they seemed to get all the guys' attention. And I noticed that I was more like friends with guys, and they didn't seem to like me in that sense, so I thought maybe it had to do with my body image, or with my body, and that I was a bigger girl. And I've also always been really tall, so I always towered over all the guys. So when I was 11, I was 5'7", and most guys were much shorter than I was, and it started to make me a little self-conscious, and I'd start slouching, so I'd look shorter than the guys were.
So that early growth spurt was kind of
Yes.
awkward for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it was just about, I remember the winter time of my 6th grade year, and that's when I started trying to cut out all the foods I was eating to make myself thinner. And I'd noticed, I'd seen in like TV shows and stuff, people throwing up if they ate a lot, so I'd try that once in a while, and I did start losing weight pretty quickly. And I mean, it was also during a growth spurt, so a lot of people just thought I was losing my baby fat, but I did start losing more of my round face, started getting like a more angular face, and people started complimenting me. So I thought, oh, this is actually a good thing to do, this is okay. And so that started that.
So disordered eating and struggles with like an eating disorder kind of happened at a young age.
Yes, it was very young. I kind of, like, I'd struggle with it throughout life. Like, I would kind of just start eating again whatever I wanted and gain a little weight back, and then if I ever started to notice I was gaining that weight back, I would just go through like peaks and valleys of doing that. I never thought it was like a huge part of my problem. Mine was more with self-mutilation but that is a form of self-mutilation.
Yeah.
But it's about control over your body. So that was more my control. I went through a lot of depression, and I was diagnosed bipolar, and I felt I was out of control of my body and my mind, and so that was my way of controlling it.
So when did that start? When were you a cutter?
Yes, I cut, burned, branded. That started again that winter of 6th grade when I was 11. And I just remember I'd gotten a big fight with my parents, and I threw something. I threw a candle down, and it shattered everywhere. And I just picked up a piece of the glass, and I just cut my thigh. And I just remember, because that releases endorphins and everything, and I just remember it made me feel better, and I was like, I'm in control of this. And also sometimes seeing the cuts and how they healed was like a visual thing for me of watching things heal, and like, this is an instant, this happened, this is how I reacted to it, and this is how I'm healing from it. So it was just a very therapeutic thing for me. It was a way I coped. I didn't learn good coping skills growing up. I kind of hid my emotions a lot. And so I hid that from my parents for about 1.5 years, and I felt it was getting out of control. I started bringing things with me to school. I would go in the bathroom and do it at school. And finally I reached out for my parents the summer of 7th grade and told them I needed help, and they took me to a therapist. So.
Did that help?
Not really, and that's actually part of the reason I got into, I just graduated with a degree in psychology. I want to be a guidance counselor, because I feel like I didn't really get the help that I needed. Like, even in my 4 years of studying psychology, we just skimmed over that topic of self-mutilation. Like, we never went in depth. They were kind of like, oh, people do this sometimes, we don't really know why. And that was it. And
that's scary.
It is. It's a little scary. It's just not talked about. Like, a lot of mental illness and things like that are very taboo. Mm-hmm. And it's stigmatized, and we don't like to talk about it. And that's the other reason I wanted to help with this project, is to kind of talk about it, because again, it's just skimmed over.
So how long did your mutilation be? Like, how long did you continue to do that for?
8 years.
Wow.
So I actually was hospitalized for it 3 different times. So I was in and out of hospitals, therapists, on different medications and stuff for it. And I think the main thing that really helped me is just an internal thing. It was finally like when I was like, I need to stop this for me. And it's finding the strength and being okay with myself and being okay with my body and everything that helped me really just stop.
So what year was it? From like what year did you begin to what year did you end?
It was 2004 to 2012.
Wow.
Yeah, about 8 years.
So it was just like a light bulb went off and you were like, hey, like I want to be nice to myself.
Mm-hmm. And actually, I don't know if I can condone this, but I got off all my medications and I felt clearer headed. It's not a good idea to do it all at once. It's better to wean off, but I think it did help because I'd just been on all these medications and not really feeling things, and that helped me by cutting and helped me feel things. And I think part of the reason I did that was because of being on mood stabilizers and antidepressants.
Because for you, it wasn't working anymore.
Right. And for some people, they really do need that, but I think for me, the therapist didn't know what to do, so they were just like, we're throwing pills at me. And they're like, take this, try this, and it just wasn't working for me.
And you needed talk therapy instead of medication.
Right, and every individual is different, and it's important to be able to talk about things. And if you're just, not talking about it and hiding your feelings, it's not going to really help.
Yeah. Wow. That's like really inspiring to hear that you could like at least be self-aware enough to be like, hey, like, this is not working for me. It's good to listen to yourself. Because I think a lot of people, when they're at such a low point, they don't know what to do. So we're going to trust our parents, we're going to trust our doctors, we're going to trust these people that are supposed to take care of us, and sometimes it's not always.
Right, and it's nothing against them, it's just they don't know where you're coming from. But that's why mental health is so difficult. It's because it's very individualized. Like with a broken arm, you can just put a cast on it and the bones will heal. But when your mind's not right, it's hard to fix that.
Yeah. So. Wow. So, like going through school, like, going through like high school or middle school or any of these time periods where it's like really hard on your self-esteem because you're going through changes physically and emotionally and you want to fit in. Like, how do you feel like a project like this would have helped if you were able to reach out and maybe get resources than, back when?
Right. I think that would have helped, especially now. I feel like, well, the hard part is when you're younger, it's just everything feels like the end of the world. And if you're not this perfect body type, and just the fact that most models you see are really skinny and everything, and it does do something for you because you think if I don't look that way, there's something wrong with me. And then you want to fit this ideal body type that most people don't fit. It's unrealistic, and then it really takes a toll on you. So I think a project like this and just body positive images in general, having all different body types in modeling would really help just younger girls, because growing up seeing one body type that you're not is really difficult, because I'll never be that, washboard ass. That will never be me. I like pizza too much, and that's just right, and that's just how it is, and that's okay. And I've learned that now at 22 that it's okay. But when you're 13 years old, you don't think that way. You just think, I need to look like this, and I don't.
Yeah, so representation is really important.
It is. It's very important because we see these media images all the time. And if we saw more diversity in the media images, I think it would really be positive for younger girls and guys.
So, do you want to talk a little bit more about maybe being hospitalized or like kind of like the struggles that went along with mental illness?
Right. So sometimes I wouldn't even kind of realize, like, it got really out of hand and I didn't realize how much I was doing it. I definitely consider that it was an addiction. And when you say that, most people when you say addiction, people think substance abuse or something like that. But I was addicted to self-mutilating, and I would hide it from my parents. I'd go in another room and do it. I wore long sleeves every single day of my middle school and high school career because I don't want anyone to know. And Alabama, it is super hot. Even in PE, I would wear the long sleeves. I got permission to change in a different dressing room so the other kids wouldn't see. So the myth that it's for attention always really drove me insane because I went through great lengths to hide it. But when I was in 7th grade, after I told my parents, and I went to the therapist and it wasn't working, that was when they took me to the hospital for the first time because my mom was like, I know you're not getting better, so we need to kind of lock you up to help yourself. So the first time it was not my idea, it was my parents' idea. And I think I resented that because, again, it was about control and I was out of control in this sense. And I went to Children's Hospital was the first hospital I went to, and when I was 12. and there were a lot of other people there, and it made me feel kind of bad because a lot of people were telling me I didn't have real issues, and like seeing everyone else there, they had like really serious things wrong with them, and it made me feel bad because I felt like I didn't really have a reason to do it, because my reasons were, you know, depression. They were internal issues as opposed to external things happening to me, like, you know, a parent or something dying or something like that. So I just looked like this, you know, like someone complaining who had a good life. And so that actually made me feel slightly worse. And actually while I was at the hospital, I couldn't self-mutilate because I didn't have any of my tools with me because they strip searched you and everything. But I found like ice and salt, and so I would like do burns that way. So I was still, while I was telling everyone I was getting better and telling the doctors what I knew they wanted to hear, I was still self-mutilating any way I could in the hospital. So I think what that taught me is if it's not your own decision, that you really won't get better. You'll just do anything you can to get out of that situation.
Yeah.
So
did the other 2 times, were they similar?
One of the times was my decision. I was finally like, you know what, and that was the last time I went. It was.
How old were you? How old were you?
At that point, I was
one?
16. The first time I was 12. The second time I was 14, and that time I actually tried to kill myself. And I cut my wrist too deep, and the ambulance came, and they stitched me up, and the hospital admitted me because they said I was a danger to myself. And again, it was a similar experience because I didn't want to be there. By the time I was 16, that's when I started to be like, you know what, this is not sustainable. I can't do this for the rest of my life. And that's when I decided to reach for help, and I went for myself. And that started to help a little bit. And I didn't do it quite as much after, but I was still doing it. Okay, so I think that if you do reach out for help and you want the help, that there are tools in place for that. And actually, the last time I went, there was it was at UAB, and there was a music therapy group, and that got me really interested in it. It's just kind of taught me alternative methods, because my main issue was that I didn't really have good coping skills. And so I needed new coping skills in place. Instead of just saying, cut out this one thing that you're doing, instead replace it with positive things. So I started journaling and playing guitar, and all that stuff actually did really help. So I still would fall back to the self-mutilating when times got really tough, but I think that definitely having new tools in place helped a lot.
Yeah. So when we just recently talked about how there's like a stigma around it, and also no one talks about it. Can you kind of elaborate on that?
Yeah, like, I mean, in middle school and even in high school, I knew other friends who did it, who would self-mutilate, but they never talked about it, you know. They would just hide it from everyone because they didn't want to be considered like emo or just, you know, get a bad label for it, because people don't really look at it as like an addiction or anything. They look at it as looking for attention, or just people just don't really understand why other people do it. Instead of like reaching out and asking them why they do it, they just kind of label them as looking for attention or something like that. So I do think a lot more people would do it that you wouldn't even know about because they didn't want anyone to know about it.
So when you get those feelings as an adult, how do you cope with things in a positive way instead of going back to that?
Yes. So as it is with any addiction, like, I still struggle with it. Not every day anymore, but when serious issues come up, that still is my first thought. My first thought is like, I need to go find a razor blade, or I need to go like just get my lighter and just like burn my leg or something. And then I'm like, no, you know, I don't need to do that. I need to sit down and actually deal with this. So I've come, like, I'll go take a bath, or I'll write in my journal, and it's just learning different skills to do, because that still is going to always be my first thought. But it's just not acting on those feelings.
So how do you feel now, like, as a woman, like, in your body? Like, do you still feel pressures from the media or just from people?
Definitely not so much the media anymore. It's more from myself. So if something goes wrong in a relationship or something, I'll think, maybe if I was 20 pounds thinner, this wouldn't have happened. But then there's that voice in my head again that's like, you know, that's probably not really the issue. So it's like a lot of times I want to blame other things on not being super skinny, but I know that it's not really the case. And then, so when I was at my heaviest, I was about 70 pounds heavier than I am now. And there are some days that I still feel like I'm that heavy. Like, there are some days when I don't, like, I still think I'm the 250-pound girl I used to be. So now, like, sometimes I'll, like, hold up something like, oh, there's no way this is going to fit me. And all my friends are like, yes, it will. And I put it on. I'm like, it does fit. And it's just like, I still have a fairly distorted body image, but then there's other days when I'm like, I look good. So it's just like, I think it's just everyone feels that way, you know? And it's just about, you know, accepting your bad days as well as your good days.
So you still struggle with body dysmorphia?
Oh, definitely. And I think I don't know if everyone does, but just the fact, and just the fact that I used to be much bigger than I am now, I still don't feel like I'm any smaller than I was. I mean, I'll look at some pictures and be like, yeah, I guess I am. But I still, to this day, feel like I'm the size 18 I was, not size 12. So I'm just like...
So when you lost weight, did it improve your self-esteem or did it make it worse? Or was it a catch-22 where it was both?
It was both. I think actually, so my I think mind and body are very connected. And if your mind starts getting healthier, your body will too. And it really went hand in hand. So it's when I got off of my antidepressants, and antidepressants can make you gain weight a lot. So when I got off them, I think that kind of started losing the weight. And this is actually the first time I'd ever done it like in a really healthy manner. Because before I'd lost, 30 pounds just like that, but that was from not eating or throwing up what I'd eaten. And this was the first time that I was like, you know what? I want to go run. And I would just go to the gym, and I wanted to eat healthier, and I just started to feel better too. And it just really shows the mind-body connection is amazing. So.
Yeah. And do you feel like the weird stigma around like health and size, do you feel like a lot of the time we prejudge people, like we go ahead and make assumptions on people based on their bodies?
Definitely. So I would say I have a lot of friends that are way thinner than I am. Like, they just look more fit. But when it came down to it, I mean, I probably would, like, I could keep up with them more. And it's just funny because...
You're probably healthier than they are.
Exactly. And it's funny because people wouldn't think that when you're a bigger size, but it's just everybody's different. And that's why I think this project is so important about showing everyone that it doesn't have to be one way or the other, that like you can be healthy at all sizes.
Yes, you
so,
cannot,
as long as you're
judge a
up and
person's
active.
health.
And that's
exactly. Because you cannot judge a person's health by their shape,
because you
size,
have no idea,
or appearance. Yeah, because people have chronic illnesses and are struggling every day, and they look completely healthy, and people don't take them seriously.
Right.
And I think that that's like the other side of that coin.
Right.
Or then there's, people that are bigger, plus size, that are active and they eat well. They're just bigger.
Yeah.
They are. And, at the end of the day, the majority of society is going to say, oh, well, that person's fat, so they're clearly,
lazy.
Or they're really unhealthy, or this and that. But I think since you've been on both ends of that spectrum, you've been heavier, you've been thinner, and you can tell that it was going along with your mental health.
Yeah.
And I think that is, a big deal to recognize that, hey, if you feel good, you're going to take care of yourself.
Exactly.
If you feel good about yourself, you're going to be nice to yourself.
And it's all about being nice to yourself. And you are the only person that can care for your body. You're the only person that can. And there's no one should tell you what to do. And that should all come from, inside and what you think's best for your body. Because you are the only one that knows. And that's what that therapy taught me too, is like they just didn't know. Which is fine, and there were some therapists that taught me little tips that did help and everything. But the main thing that really drove me crazy is in therapy, they would just say, you shouldn't do that. You have such a pretty face. You shouldn't destroy your body. And they would just tell me all these things like that instead of giving me alternatives. And people would always ask if I was going to get surgery. So far, my scars have healed really well. But people would ask if I was going to get surgery to cover them up. And originally, I felt like it was weakness on my body. And now I think it just shows my path. And it just
shows your story.
It shows where I've come from. And actually, my senior year at UAB, my teacher came up to me, and I was wearing a skirt. And she noticed my legs, and she just wrote a little note, and she was like, is that from self-injury? And I said, it is. And she apparently is struggling with it as well. And she said it was an inspiration to see. And it made me feel so good because I would have no idea. She's this strong professor, and I would never know she was, struggling with something like this. And she asked for my advice, and it was just a really humbling moment to see someone I looked up to so much, that they were going through something I went through. And it was really cool.
Anyone can struggle.
Right.
You can have the best job and be super successful, or look, I guess whatever the media would say is beautiful,
right.
But you can still struggle. And I think that's why this project is super important, because it's for everyone.
Right, and it shows everyone does have their own struggle, and everyone's struggle is important, and it makes you who you are today, and it makes you the person you are.
So what do you think that, where do you think you are right now, and what did you get from participating in Skin Stories?
Well, honestly, I think it really helped me. I would never have gone out and, done a shot in my underwear ever. Like, the first picture I've even had in a two-piece bathing suit since I was like 4 was last year. And that's like the only one I did. And I was like, I usually try to, cover myself up in pictures or try to stand behind someone to make myself look thinner. And I was like, you know what? I want to go out of my comfort zone and give myself a more positive image. And I loved the way the pictures turned out. And I was like, all right, like, it just made me feel really good. And I think everyone should do that. And I don't know, it definitely helped me by participating in this, to talk about it. Like, I've never really talked about it. I mean, I've talked about it to like friends and stuff, but usually when people ask, they don't really want to know. Once I start talking about it, they're kind of like, oh, okay, I didn't want to hear all this. And I'm like, all right, well, okay. So it's just like, I usually just, the short answer is that was the past me. But the truth is, it's still me. It's still the same person. It's just, where I've come. And so this project has definitely helped me, definitely like get out of my shell and be okay with taking a picture of my underwear. Got a really cute bathing suit after that too. I was like, I want to wear this, which I never normally. I wore like one piece for like cover-ups all the time, but
I'm really excited for you.
And it was a really positive experience for sure.
Did you feel comfortable while you were doing it?
The whole time I felt like completely comfortable. Even when that lady came out and she was like, "What are you doing with your clothes off?" No, it was a good experience. Even then, I didn't feel ashamed at all. So normally I'd be like, "Oh my God, this lady's like screaming at me." But I was like, you know what? No, it's fine.
I'd like to comment that sometimes when you take photos places, people might not know what you're doing and might have questions or concerns, but we made it clear that it was a body positive project and we were out here to do good things, and she might not have gotten that,
fine.
but
Not everyone will.
When she sees you on our website randomly one day when it pops up on her newsfeed, maybe she'll get it.
And I do think this is an experience, if anyone's struggling with body image, which I think probably everyone does. I have not talked to a single girl who's never, like, who doesn't have a day where she wakes up. Person in general, yeah, but who wakes up and is just like, you just have those days where you're just like, I don't even want to go outside, I feel awful. But I think it's just important to get out there and just be like, everyone has their own beauty, and I don't know, I think it was a really good experience. And I think everyone should do it.
Oh my goodness. So after doing this project and after, coming so far with like your mental health, just everything, where do you think you are now and what are you looking forward to?
Well, honestly, the whole experience of mental health and where we are in the whole way we look at it has really gotten me into wanting to work in that field. So I just got my bachelor's in psychology, graduated in December, and now I'm planning on getting a master's so I can be a guidance counselor in a school and preach for non-pharmaceutical alternatives. So like the music and art therapy, so creative arts therapy.
Yeah.
So I really want to talk about get into creative arts therapy, which is like music therapy, art therapy, dance therapy, play therapy. And I think it's important to start young because you can really instill these coping skills into children at a young age. So that way when they reach their puberty, they don't just freak out and not know what to do, and they actually have these skills in place that they can use when they need them. So
if you could tell 11-year-old Rebekah something, what would you tell her?
Honestly, she probably wouldn't listen to me. I didn't listen to anyone. But I would just say, you know what, you're a strong woman, and I mean, you're gonna get there eventually. Wish it'd be a little bit sooner rather than later, but you have your own path and just follow it. But just know that you're strong and you're gonna make it through. That's probably what I'd say. Because my parents were always afraid. They're like, she's not even gonna make it to graduation. But I did. So.
I'm glad that you did, because meeting you and just hearing you share this and I just know that this is gonna help people.
I hope so.
This will cross over to someone that might not even realize what they're doing, or they might not even feel comfortable talking about it. But I think that starting this conversation is super important, and you know, I'm just really thankful that you wanted to share that with us, because I know that it's hard.
It is, but I mean, that's how you get anywhere, is by opening up and talking about it. And I hope if this does reach someone who's really looking for help, that they'll come, you know, find me or Mary Berkeley or someone and talk about it, because that is the thing that helps the most, is just talking about it and just getting it out there, and you realize, okay, I can handle this once, you know, it's out there. So.
Oh my gosh, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're good.